right, everybody. So what I want to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of some kind of simple basics of Maya math. So we ended up getting quite a few questions, well, not quite a few, just a couple specific questions. And both myself and Kim had a couple just one-on-one meetings with a few of you and just sort of went over kind of a more visual explanation of the math system. So especially for anyone that wasn't there during our enrichment sessions when we did go over this in a little bit of detail. This may be helpful, but also I know a lot of us are visual learners, so I think it's helpful to kind of talk it out and write it down on a board. So I have linked a couple videos that explain in much more detail the Maya math system. Of course, take a peek at those as soon as you watch this if you still have questions. And then, of course, our newsletter explains more in detail about the aspects of Maya math when we're thinking of it in terms of how the numbers are written within text or how glyphs are written of the Maya math and kind of how those all sort of play together. So what I want to do here is just explain the basics starting from the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, compare our system to the Maya system because it's really hard to explain how the Maya system works without kind of understanding our own system first. So let me just grab a pen here. So looking at our system, of course, we're talking about bases. So we've been throwing this term around a lot, but basically this is just how our system is set up. So what we do is, of course, we have a base of 10 as opposed to the Maya base of 20. So what we're doing here is we have different levels within our numbers. We have our ones, our tens, our hundreds, our thousands, etc. So what you basically can break that down as is it's a base of 10 and it's multiplied by itself a certain amount of time. So that's what this power of means. So here we have 10 to the power of 1, so it's just 10. 10 to the power of 2 would be 10 times 10, which of course equals 100. 10 to the power of 3 is of course 10 times 10 times 10 to the power of 1000. So our system is really simple just in the sense that our powers kind of represent the amount of zeros we have. So they're really simple ways of us breaking down our numbers and kind of explaining this. If you always imagine explaining it to someone really young, for instance, it's really easy to give them some tricks of how to do or how to break down what each number would be. So with the Maya system, it's really similar. It's also very easy, I will say, but slightly more complicated than ours. So if we're looking right off the bat, their system is, of course, a base 20. So it is consistent all the way down. That is, of course, a base that repeats itself, but the numbers will change a little bit more than our numbers will, of course, because you're multiplying by 2 rather than 1. So here, base of 20, this would be 20 times nothing. So this is their ones section, so that's 1 through 19, whereas ours would be 1 through 9. So there's our going from 1 through 19. Then you move on to their tens, or our tens and their 20s. So that'd be 20 times nothing, of course, equals 20. And then 20 to the power of 2 would be 20 times 20, which equals 400. 20 to the power of 3 would be 20 times 20 times 20, which of course equals 8,000. So it goes on and on and on, just like our system. So that's kind of how it's broken down in that sense. So how is this written out? And what does this mean for the way we see our numbers written out versus the Maya numbers? So right off the bat, we can already tell our numbers are written horizontally, their numbers are written vertically. So that smallest number is at the bottom, all the way up to the top. The smallest number of ours is at our right side, all the way to the left. It gets bigger and bigger. So looking at the way our numbers are written, of course, this is our ones, our tens. This section is their ones and their 20s. Looking down here, our ones, our tens, and our hundreds. So we have 3 separate sections in our number here. So because the Maya system goes 1, 20, 400, this number, of course, is not over, it's over 100, so it means that we have 3 levels, but it's not over 400, which means that there's only 2 levels in the Maya system. So we've got our ones down here, and then our 20s up here, which of course can, represent this number over here. So looking at our next level, we've got our ones, our tens, our hundreds, and our thousands. So again, we've got 4 numbers here, but if this number were to be over 8,000, the Maya represented number would also have 4 levels, but because it does not exceed 8,000, it's just got the 3 levels. So this is our ones, this is our 20s, and this is our 400s. So I'll get more into how those numbers are written out just on this other side, but just to give you the basics of how the numbers are written out and how they're comparing to each other, we can see that. So over here, I'll give more detail about how we can actually both write the numbers down and kind of determine what numbers we're seeing in more detail over here.